Shabbat Shalom. For those of you who have done some learning with me at some point at Burma night and especially around Pesach time, you know that the opening section of our parasha this week is one of the most meaningful pieces, in my opinion, of our entire Torah, and one that I try to meditate on often. The text is the mitzvah of Bikurim, of collecting the first fruits and bringing them to the Kohanim as an offering with a specific formula that is meant to be recited by the offerer in her moment of giving. And what she is instructed to say is the following. Arami Oved Avi, my father was a wandering Arab man. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. But there he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried to the Lord, the God of our fathers, and the Lord heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. The Lord freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm and awesome power, and by signs and portents. He brought us to this place, gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Wherefore now I bring the first fruits of the soil which you, O Lord, have given me. It's hard for me to even read this text without choking up a little bit. I think most of us grew up being told that, unlike other religions, Judaism isn't made up of creeds. We don't focus on recitation or declarations. We do. We are people of action. And the rest, the belief, the theology, as they say, is commentary. But this passage, this mitzvah Bikurim, along with the Shema, which I think is also an incredibly powerful piece of creed, of testament, challenges that assertion. Because this mitzvah, this gathering and presenting of the first fruits, is not just about doing, it's about seeing, and it's about believing. Emunah, faith. Faith is not easy. It's not meant to be. When we look at our world, especially this Meshuggah year of 2020, the idea of believing in good, in meaning, in benevolence becomes even more difficult. But the profundity of this commandment comes from his charge for us to see the world in its entirety, to see war and violence and unrest, racism, bigotry, poverty, and not just the world, but us ourselves in our entirety, with the same problems of prejudice, hate, impatience, judgment. Then, in the midst of it all, to pick some sweetness from the trees, to bring them to God and to say, Arami Oved Avi, I was enslaved. I was in the wilderness, but you made me free. It's so powerful precisely because it's focused on the least powerful aspect of our narrative, or the seemingly least powerful aspect. Because this declaration, at its ikar, at its core, is not about the magic of Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's not about the splitting of the sea, the plagues, the manna to feed the entire Israelite people, or the prophetic right given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Those are miracles. Those are big. Those are grandiose. It's about picking fruit. And in that way, it's the counter-narrative to Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden, the antithesis to our expulsion from paradise, when God said, do not eat of the fruit of the tree. Because now the message is, you're going to mess up. You're going to break my laws. You're going to break my expectations, my confidence, my trust. And when you do, this world is going to fill up with some really painful and difficult things. But eat of the fruit. But as long as you still find the sweetness, as long as you can still see the goodness, the potential, the hope, then you will never be lost, never be enslaved, never be expelled again. It's the most beautiful creed I can possibly think of. It's not a simple statement, but it's one filled with humility and with grace. It doesn't say trust in God. It doesn't say pledge allegiance, declare your loyalty. It says even when life is at its darkest, when the clouds block out the last rays of sunlight, and it seems that there's no chance of this upside down world turning right side up, to hope, to find good. And right now, that might be a challenge more staggering than at any time of some of our lives. Violence fills our streets. The voice of extremism, of fear and of hate is doing its best to rival the blast of the shofar to get our attention and support. Truth, fact, objectivity are being replaced with conspiracy theories, self-fulfilling prophecies, and propaganda. The kettle is boiling. And yet, Arami Oved Avi, my father was a wandering Aramean. And like him, I was enslaved. I was lost. I was exhausted and frustrated and angry and scared, and maybe I still am. But I don't have to be, because you gave me the freedom to see something else, to see the fruits, the countless, limitless fruits growing, ripening all around me. The figs and pomegranates, the dates and oranges, they don't take away all of the shtuyot around us. They can't. They don't grow in order to numb us or to help us forget that our world has problems. They grow to remind us of who we were, who we are, and who we promised that we would be. And they grow to say that the outstretched arm of redemption, that the plagues and manna, they aren't going to help us this time. That only creed, a faith in the sweetness of blessings, of those small daily reminders of goodness, of kindness, of hope, can bring us to our personal redemptions. Our father was a wandering Aramean. And when darkness surrounded him, it was hope that saw him through, that broke the chains of bondage, that walked with him and his family through the desert of the Sinai, through exile, through destruction, through expulsion, through pogroms, through journeys on streamers and railways, through the horrors of Europe and the betrayal of enlightenment. It was hope then, and it is hope now. And as we turn now to Musaf, we begin with words of Kaddish, knowing that it will be hope always, as we offer our hearts, as we take the fruits of this moment and pledge a creed that we will always remember the blessings.